and it was nightmarish at moments, especially Joel Edgerton.
True.
Drive-by movies you're watching.
Fresh releases.
My name's Blaze.
And my name is James.
And this week we're talking Netflix's original film, The Stranger.
Blackness.
The Stranger hit Netflix last year, and we're finally checking it out after having it on our watch list. It's about two men that meet and strike up a conversation on a bus that leads to a friendship. For Henry Teague, worn down by a lifetime of physical labor and crime, this is a dream come true. So, this is not the movie I watched. I watched the Netflix limited series that's a BBC special, and then I was like, no, this can't be right. We normally review movies on here. So I was like, oh, The Stranger, the one with Brendan Gleeson or Domhnall Gleeson. So I watched that movie. I was like, oh, this is much more. I was like, wait, but this movie's 5 years old. Why did Blaze pick this movie? Then I found out, oh, wait, no, there's a new one with Joel Edgerton. So that's the one he wanted to review. Luckily, I still watched that one. But Blaze, no.
Did you watch all three?
No, I'm just making all this up. Yeah, I just am joking on the fact that The Stranger is such a common title, and it doesn't help that Netflix is mainly known for Stranger Things. So, yeah.
True.
Blaze, what are your initial thoughts on The Stranger?
Well, I was trying to get in the algorithm for The Stranger and Netflix, and then it's not Stranger Things. Mm-hmm. This film is not, or this, yeah, whatever. Anyways, so yeah, The Stranger is a Joel Edgerton movie. He executive produced this movie along with some of his buddies. I know the director, Thomas M. Wright, is also an actor, so I think that probably excited him. But yeah, this is one of those, we've been kind of on a Joel Edgerton kick, I feel like, for a while now. So I wanted to check this out because this played at Cannes. I don't think it won any awards or anything, but it played there. So I was kind of interested in stuff that played there. Sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss. For me, I enjoyed this film. I thought it was very strange movie in a way. It was a very Stranger movie in a way, but it's because I felt like there's aspects of it that were very procedural-esque, but at the same time, it has like this really great, dark, moody cinematography score. And it was just a very kind of like almost hypnotizing watch in a way.
Right. No, I was absolutely mesmerized by this movie. I 100% loved it. I assume so. I looked up who Thomas M. Wright was. I'm not sure if this is his directorial debut, but at least it's definitely the biggest movie he's worked on. And I saw that he was an actor mainly known for Everest, and I'm pretty sure Joel Edgerton was in that movie. So I just assume, like, I just like to imagine that Thomas Wright was just like talking to Joel Edgerton, yo, you were powerful in your directorial debut, The Gift. And then it was like, I hope someday to make it out as you. And then Joel Edgerton was probably like, don't worry, bro, I got you. So I like to think that's what happened with this movie. So I can see a lot of people kind of being like, this doesn't seem realistic, or this is dull and boring. And I kind of got that vibe when I originally saw The Departed. I really like that movie now and came to love it. But just growing up, when I first got into film, there were certain movies, I've talked about it before, where The Departed, certain Martin Scorsese films, as well as The Godfather, just, I don't know, I just couldn't get into them, and just they didn't work for me. Now, as I'm older, like, I find them a lot more interesting and stuff. Whereas this movie, like, it's based on true events, though, and just seeing the deep process that police have to go to undercover to figure out something like this. And this is a crime that happened like a long time ago, and seeing the lengths that they go to and how long they have to act and stuff, and just seeing the toll it takes on them mentally. Like, I thought this movie kind of played it off a little better. Like, of course, we see Leonardo DiCaprio's take on it in The Departed, but just love seeing Joel Edgerton, as well as like forgot the name of the other friend that Emery, I believe was his name, that they meet on the bus and stuff, and just seeing how deep they have to go into it. And just Henry Teague is also an actor I'm not too familiar with, but I know his name, I've seen his face, and definitely a guy to watch too.
What was his name? Sean Harris.
Oh yeah. And sorry, I said Henry Teague. That's the character's name, but Sean Harris is the actor, and I know he's been around for a while. But I'm glad I finally got to see him in a longer main character role, I'd say.
I felt like he also, I mean, I've seen the actor before. His face was very recognizable, but I think he really embodies the part with this like huge beard. He almost seemed like a new actor. I felt like it seemed like a new guy. I'm like, I kind of recognize this guy, but this might just be like a new guy and it's like his first movie. Do I recognize that guy or is he a stranger? Like I felt like like that going into it. But anyways, yeah, like this movie, I felt like there were parts of it where I'm kind of interested how you thought about certain aspects of it, and to get into it, I guess per se, I don't think it would necessarily be spoilers. But yeah, like I'm wondering if it really, if the fact that this is like based on a true story, did that almost make you more intrigued about it? Like that this is a true story, or
I have no idea what the connotation or previous story was about, so seeing it unfold is still shocking and surprising. And I would say if just the movie's interesting, like this movie doesn't come off like the biopic based on a true story kind of feel. Overall, this feels like just a natural movie and stuff. It's just such great portrayal of just something that actually happened. I think on the fun facts it said something that we're reading up on, that just like it was like inspired and not necessarily true events and stuff, but just I would say as long as something's like based on a true thing and just doesn't come off as that biopic thing, I usually enjoy it. And the one thing, like, of course, the movie that we saw, 13 Lives, was very, on the nose on just like what actually happened and stuff. But the thing was, I didn't know what actually happened. Same thing here. We're just like, I didn't know about any of this, and just the lengths that they go in. It didn't take away from the suspense of the movie and everything. Not that this movie's like horrific, but just this is my favorite genre movie, just like murder mystery movies. And this movie doesn't go into too much into like, I mean, of course it has to do with the murder of someone, but it doesn't go into like the horrific aspects of it. It more just goes into the detective thriller and just like trying to get inside someone's head to overall just get them to confess. Like that's overall the end game. That's why we're doing all this. And no, it's enthralling, I'd say.
Yeah, and definitely this is movies like says it's based on a true story. I think it literally opens up with one of those title cards, but it is a movie where it's inspired. I'd say more so inspired, like you said, by a true story, because they were trying to be protective of the family that whose son passed away, a tragic incident, tragic murder. But basically the family was very opposed to them making a movie that was even going to be based on their true story. They didn't want to be involved or anything, so this film was only inspired by it. But I find it interesting that they still went and like said it was based on a true story, where this film never really feels like there's a moment where you find out anything about the actual crime that took place. It's all about the solving of this crime so many years later, 8 years later, where it feels, I don't know if that maybe for me, I felt like there was an aspect where I was like, why are they still trying to solve this crime like 8 years later? It's just one murder of one person. I mean, maybe it's a little pessimistic. I guess it probably has to do with the fact that I've seen so many Unsolved Mysteries episodes where a similar crime or a much more heinous crime than this happened, not discounting anyone's life, but just saying where they still can't solve it, but I guess they're still trying to. But yeah, it didn't, I feel like, not make it like unrealistic per se, but I was just like, wow, why are they trying so hard to solve this crime? Maybe this is how all police cases should be investigated, in a sense, where it's so meticulous with a fine-tooth comb of them trying to make sure that this crime is solved, even if it's 8 years later.
Yeah, I like to think that this happens in all cases and stuff too, because there's countless cases that we're hearing about, and you like just forget about what amongst like another story similar to it happening across the country literally the next day and stuff. Like, it's a real bummer and stuff. And you always like to think that some families will get closure with this stuff, even if it takes years later and stuff. But yeah, I was wondering that too, if like, do they really do this kind of stuff? I guess it just depends on the crime, depends on what evidence they have, depends on just like, what county line regions going on. But like I said, though, I like to think that they do this for every case. It just takes that long for every case, and some they'll just never solve. But, you know, at the end of the day, I always think of also the line from Superbad, just like, we ain't gonna find the guy. Well, or just on to the next case and stuff.
True. I think what I enjoyed most about this movie is how much it did focus on, you know, telling the story of Mr. Big. Like, essentially, that's what this crime, how they solved this crime case, I guess, is called in like the law enforcement world. Is like Mr. Big, where they introduce this suspect basically to, you know, a network of people that might be like, I guess, kind of like a mafia, but it's a network of undercover cops pretending to just lead up and up the ladder till they reach some crime boss, essentially. And eventually the crime boss is going to be the one that gets the suspect to crack, essentially, by making them, you know, tell what actually happened and what happened in that original crime, and essentially while they're trying to join this mafia. So, I mean, that was very interesting. I feel like I haven't really seen too many movies where they went this so crazy in a web of you know, undercover cops. I know recently on Screen Scuffle, we did an episode specifically on undercover cop movies. So maybe whoever wins there, we might battle the stranger in the future.
Right. No, that sounds like a fun time, honestly. Yeah. The more serious tone versions, because those are like kid fun ones and school related. But yeah, I mean, easily we could, like we just mentioned, we could do like The Departed versus The Stranger and everything. But yeah, this movie was much more my speed versus that movie, just because I like the dark tone. And I didn't really talk about the cinematography, but just absolutely breathtaking within this movie, despite it taking place in like enclosed small city environments and everything.
Definitely. And that was one thing, like one of the other fun facts was, I guess, the mountain range that they keep showing in this film, some of the cinematography. It's Mount Birwa, which is part of the Glass House mountain range. And that's the area where the human remains were found in the real life case. So they're kind of like, I guess that's basically where they're going to tapping into this true story, essentially using some of that cinematography, some of the hints there. I liked the use of like how dark and moody this film was, especially because it deals with a really serious, you know, subject. Like, it's literally about a pedophile, and it's really dark because that's a really dark crime. And I thought it was just very well told, and it was nightmarish at moments, especially Joel Edgerton. There's a lot of the nightmares that he has throughout this film, and that stuff was honestly terrifying. Like, the moments that blend like scenes like it would be just him and Henry that seem like they're not a dream, and then all of a sudden it's a nightmare, and he wakes up and he's checking on his Joel Edgerton's checking on his son. A lot of that stuff was really effective, and really made this film just really capture that mood of being like nightmarish, and as nightmarish as that crime would be if that was, you know, happened to your family.
And the music played perfectly along with it. Like, I wouldn't call it really like a soundtrack or score. I guess it's more just tones, but it's memorable. Like a lot of people, you know, one of my favorite movies of all time, The Thing, like, it's not really like a score with, I mean, of course it is a score, but it's just a lot of tones and just slow paced tones. And that's what this movie kind of had again too. But yeah, this movie's on Netflix, so I haven't heard anyone talk about this movie. I'm glad you looked into it. I'm glad that Joel Edgerton is back in our lives once again and just proving that he's one of the most sickest actors like working today, and just really chooses great projects and everything, because he hasn't gone anywhere. I just kind of dropped off the stuff that like interest me, I guess, and just like there's still movies out there that he's doing that are fantastic, and this is one of them. So be sure to check it out on Netflix. That's a great way to help support the show by coming back here, letting us know what you thought about it in the comments below.
And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates. And
speaking of updates, catch all our social media links down below for Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, as well as our own personal Letterboxd accounts. That'll conclude this week's episode. Tune in next week for a brand new video.